And then there were 8. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Wish the Packers were in the power rankings this week. Grossi, and today we are going to be ranking the final 8 teams heading into the divisional round. We had a series of 6 games over Wild Card weekend, and now it's showtime. It is time for the nitty-gritty. The best of the best remain. Who's looking the very best as we head into the 4 games of this divisional round? Let's find out. Starting off with number 8. You got the Washington Commanders. The Commanders! They did it! Wildflower, you did it! Off a doink off the right upright, the Commanders punched their ticket and won a playoff game. And I gotta tell you, just completely power rankings and football aside, I am so happy for Commanders fans. The fact that they were able to get into the postseason with a rookie quarterback, with a new head coach, there's no Dan Snyder, and now to win a playoff game, very, very well deserved. And the Commanders, they played a pretty damn great game on Sunday night. They were going for it all night on 4th down, converting 3 out of the 5. However, they also got a little help from Baker baking up something special.
I hope you're hungry for nothing.
It was a fumble. That's what he baked up. But the Commanders and Jaden Daniels looked fantastic on Sunday night. And yes, the fumble definitely did shift things in that game when the Buccaneers looked like they could take control and potentially win that football game. But that defense, which a lot of folks expected to be very, very bad this year, turned out not to be so bad, especially on Sunday night. We know that the Commanders had the 3rd best secondary in the league heading into Sunday. However, they were ranked 30th in run defense. However, they held Bucky Irving to just 77 yards on 17 carries, which honestly, that's pretty damn good. And ultimately, they were able to get the win off that doinked field goal. And I gotta say, Commanders fans, you are playing with house money at this point. Yes, there are still holes on your squad. Definitely need to shore up that defensive line, maybe get another weapon or 2 on offense. But things are looking pretty damn well because at this point, you have absolutely nothing to lose. The reason why the Commanders are ranked down at number 8 is because while it was one of the most competitive games on Sunday night, they are going to have to go up against now the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions. And I think that is going to be a very tough game for them. However, considering that the Lions defense at times doesn't look the best, maybe it is going to wind up being a shootout. But I do think it is going to be a tough game for the Commanders to win. And so while they did get their big playoff win and nothing but congratulations, I do have to rank them at number 8. If they are going to beat the Lions, they are going to have to run that football. Jaden Daniels is going to have to be near perfect. And hey, they were able to knock off the Buccaneers in an upset on Sunday night. Anything is possible. Number 7, you got the Houston Texans. The Texans playing on their usual Saturday afternoon slot, getting a big-time win over the LA Chargers. And the Texans, as we were talking about back in the predictions last week and rankings, the Texans, they had a rough end to the season. Yes, they clinched their division, but their offensive line had not been playing well. The offense wasn't really moving the ball. Of course, they have injuries all over the offense, but that defense had been consistent. And I talked about this. It might be one of the closer games on Saturday, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans won. However, I did favor the Chargers. And boy, oh boy, was that the incorrect pick, because that defense was dominant. Even though the first play on offense was a fumble for the Strouds, they threw an interception. The defense only allowed 6 points for the Chargers, and ultimately, the Strouds won that game. And that means, unfortunately, Justin Herbert was unable to get his first playoff win, all thanks to the Strouds.
Didn't win the prize?
No.
You know what that means?
No.
It means you have no skills and you're a loser!
And so now the Texans have a tough matchup going up against a number 1 seeded Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, and that is going to be a very difficult game. However, the Texans, they have a pass rush, and as they have shown, they have a pretty damn great defense as well. I do think that they should be able to get after Patrick Mahomes, and that might keep this game very, very close. And if they're able to move that ball against a very good Chiefs defense, they have a shot. However, they are not going to be able to start slow against the Chiefs like they did against the Chargers, or they are going to be in big trouble But ultimately, I think this gives some optimism for the Texans because I think Texans fans were a little bit down on their team this year. I know expectations were super high. CJ Stroud, I don't want to say regressed a little bit, but didn't perform like he did in his rookie year. I mentioned the injuries and the O-line play and just the offense as a whole with Bobby Slowick, but ultimately still getting a big wild card weekend win. I'm super happy for the Strouds, and now they're going to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, and if they win, they're going to be everybody's hero. Number 6, you got the LA Rams. Ooh, an emotional night for LA on Monday night. Of course, having to play in Arizona due to the wildfires that are going on in California right now. It was chock full of emotion before the opening kickoff, and oh boy, the Rams kept that emotion going the entire game, sacking Sam Darnold 9 times. 9, and holding the Vikings to 9 points. That's a 14-win team that now the Rams have beaten twice. And the Rams heading into the postseason, we were kind of just wondering what we were going to get because they have been a streaky team. They can go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen and knock him off after getting 6 touchdowns, or they don't score any touchdowns against the San Francisco 49ers. But on Monday night, we saw a dominant Rams team. Stafford was moving the ball pretty damn well. We talk about that defensive line was absolutely incredible. Jared Verse has had a sensational rookie season. And honestly, by the way that they were playing, I guess they heard Dan Campbell saying they were going to see the Vikings in 2 weeks.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Not so much, but the Rams deserve a ton of credit. They're going to be going and facing the Philadelphia Eagles, which will be a very tough game on the road in Philadelphia. And for the Rams, if their defense can play like they did on Monday night, oh boy, that could be a close game. I think they're going to have more of a challenge going up against a much better offensive line that Philadelphia has, but I think Sean McVay and the Rams deserve a ton of credit knocking off the Minnesota Vikings, especially with the change of venue, not playing at home, and there were a ton of Vikings fans in the crowd, and ultimately, that defense dominated the front of the Minnesota Vikings, and so because of that, they are moving forward with one of the most dominant wins of the weekend, and because of that, they are at number 6. Number 5, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles. Oh boy, that game was close for a hot second. Unfortunately, because then it just broke my heart even more at the end. But getting a big-time win over the Green Bay Packers, doing what the Dallas Cowboys could not last year during the wild card round. And ultimately, Saquon Barkley was the best player on that offense. A.J. Brown was held to only 1 catch, but he had a self-help book to keep him busy.
What the
And really, the story of this game is going to be the defense. The defense forcing 4 turnovers against the Packers, 3 interceptions on Jordan Love, and of course, that opening kickoff fumble, which it's all right. We don't have to talk about it. And they were able to make the most out of those opportunities. The only reason why I'm a little bit down on the Eagles right now is because the offense really wasn't that productive, especially in the first half. And you have to tip your hat to the Packers defense. I think they played really well besides, Carrington Valentine getting stiff-armed all the way to the end zone by Dallas Goedert, but that's neither here nor there. And ultimately, I think the Eagles are in good shape here. Taking on the Rams, I think if they're able to contain that pass rush, they should be able to win this game. If they're able to get Saquon going, I feel pretty good about it. And of course, that defense being one of the best in football could give Matthew Stafford a tough time. So ultimately, the Eagles, they're not in the top 3 or 4, but I have them ranked at number 5. They have an opportunity to look even better against the LA Rams. Let's see if they do it. Number 4, you got the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, you ran the football. I just was a little concerned because, last year in the playoffs, especially the AFC Championship game, we didn't run the ball. But this time, we did. And honestly, at this point, how do teams even stop Lamar and Derrick Henry?
They don't.
Both players looking fantastic against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and while the Steelers were able to come back a little bit in that game and make it somewhat interesting, the Ravens were never really in any danger of blowing that lead. And for the Ravens, I think they have all this momentum behind them, obviously getting this big home win. The question is, can they show up 3 times in a row? Because it's been that consistency that has gotten them in trouble previously in the playoffs. They were the best team in the AFC last year. They got the number 1 seed. They had to play 2 games. They beat the Texans in the Divisional Round, and then they blew it against the Chiefs in the championship game. Now they are going to have a very tough matchup going against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, the Ravens did beat the Bills earlier this year. However, the Bills were pretty decimated in terms of injury. So I think it's going to be a much closer game this time. And as for the defense, things have definitely been looking up for Baltimore. We talk about that defensive front and their ability to stop the run, which is really good, and they're going to need that against Buffalo. The only potential problem could be that secondary, which has been playing much better, but you do have to worry about Josh Allen because we know he can spread the ball way down the field. But ultimately, the Ravens are coming in at number 4, knocking off a division rival. There's always a little bit of nerves within the AFC North because you never know what teams you're going to get in any particular game. But the Ravens get a big-time win. Now they have a primetime game against the Buffalo Bills, and they can settle who the real MVP is. Number 3, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills, with one of the most dominant wins of the weekend, they were able to destroy the Denver Broncos, at least in the second half of that game, because it was definitely close in the first half. And the Broncos, listen, they had a great touchdown to start that game, and then that was it.
Please, sir, I want some more.
Literally only allowing 7 points on the first drive, the Bills' defense was having itself a day. And even in garbage time, the Broncos couldn't convert a 4th down conversion. And ultimately, you gotta love the way that the Bills played that game. They controlled the clock, time of possession was wildly inequitable, and the Bills were able to have a dominant win against the Broncos and were never really in any fear of losing that football game either. Josh Allen had himself a nice game. Unfortunately, Ray Davis did get injured, but James Cook has been phenomenal. You had diving touchdown grabs, and ultimately, now the Bills are going to be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, and this should be the game of the week. Hell, this could wind up being one of the games of the year. You want to talk about MVP fighting? Yeah, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, fans are all fighting about it. Ultimately, only one team is going to move forward. The Bills have a ton of momentum behind them right now, but so do the Ravens. I think these teams are very evenly matched, and if the Bills can stop the run like they did against the Broncos, though the Broncos definitely do not have the same run game as the Baltimore Ravens, this is going to be a very close game. But the Bills right now, after a little bit of a more dominant win than the Ravens, they get the number 3 spot. And Bills, we'll see if you can go all the way this time. Number 2, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, they were able to relax, throw their feet up, and honestly, their starters haven't even played a game since Christmas.
Last time, what are you doing?
I'm on vacation.
Just let them enjoy their vacation. Yes, we have not seen the Chiefs starters in quite some time. Of course, the last time the Chiefs were on the field, they got shut out by the Denver Broncos, but that was their backups, and that doesn't mean diddly squat. And always the question is going to come in about rust. Are they going to be rusty coming into this game? Honestly, I doubt it. It is the Kansas City Chiefs world, and we are all just living in it. And listen, if you don't want the Chiefs to three-peat, look at the other AFC teams, because right now, the Chiefs, they got everything they wanted. They got the number 1 seed. They got home field advantage. And now they're going to be taking on a Houston Texans team who, like I said, their defense could give that offense some problems, but I think the Chiefs are going to be heavily favored in this ball game. And on top of that, Kansas City will be very well rested, getting some guys back from injury, and the Chiefs, hell, it is their Super Bowl to lose at this point. They have the most experience. They're the back-to-back champs. And I'm not just trying to hype them up. I'm just laying out the facts. And so, AFC, if you want to get to the Super Bowl, you are going to have to go to Kansas frickin' City. The Texans, they are first up on potential victim list. Let's see if they can get it done. But right now, I got to go with the Chiefs sitting at number 2 because honestly, they've shown time and time again that they can get it done. And number 1, you got the Detroit Lions. The Lions, they got to sit back as well and enjoy their bye week. And honestly, I'm sure Lions fans are just rewatching highlights of the Vikings and Packers losses.
How many times?
1072.
We start off with 3 teams from the NFC North in the postseason, and now we're down to 1. And the Lions got to be feeling pretty damn good. Not only did they give Sam Darnold and the Vikings the Honolulu Flu Part 2, but they really gave a blueprint on how to beat Sam Darnold. And it turns out you just have to have a pass rush. Imagine the Packers had one, but ultimately the Lions, talking about getting guys back from injury like we were talking about with Kansas City, they are going to be getting a bunch of help back as well. David Montgomery is expected to play in the divisional round, which will be a huge boost from them. We're still waiting to see if they're going to get some defenders back as well, but the Lions are in great shape. They're going to be taking on the Washington Commanders, who are coming to Ford Field, and as I mentioned with the Commanders, I think they're going to be a fun team, and this should be a really fun game. It could wind up being a shootout. However, with Montgomery back and Gibbs, I don't know how that run defense of the Commanders is going to fare, and I imagine not too good. But ultimately, the Lions have it all in front of them. If they wind up winning this game, they will host the NFC Championship game, not having to go on the road like they did last year. And so, Lions fans, you are 2 games away from the Super Bowl. Can you get it done? You're getting healthy at the right time. And now, all there's left to do is try and finish it. Let's see what happens. And so just to recap, at number 1, you got the Lions, 2 Chiefs, 3 Bills, 4 Ravens, 5 Eagles, 6 Rams, 7 Texans, and 8 Commanders. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be higher or lower on these rankings? Let me know. You guys find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. A big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers. Let's freaking frack and get it. And as always, go Pack Go.